Hello students, as you know that we are covering the syllabus of science of the CBSE curriculum, and we have completed most of the reactions of the chemical reactions and equations of chapter number 1. If you have not gone through, please go through the videos. In this part of the video, we are going to discuss one of the most important topic of chemical reactions and equations, which are the electrolysis of water. Okay, electrolysis is the electrical decomposition reaction where water is decomposed into its constituent oxygen and hydrogen. We have to understand the setup. We take a glass utensil in which we take two graphite electrodes, okay, connected to the external circuit with a 6-volt battery. As you know, the electrode which will be connected to the positive terminal of the battery will be called as the anode, and the electrode that is connected to the negative terminal of the battery will be called as the cathode. Okay, so this is the positive terminal and this is the negative terminal. Clear? Now what we are doing, we are taking water in this vessel and two fully filled test tubes are inverted above the two electrodes. Two fully filled test tubes are inverted in the electrodes respectively. Okay, now what we will understand, that when water is broken down, H2O is broken down, say two molecules of H2O is broken down. Okay, what happens, we get 4H plus 2O2 minus ions. Here we have 4H plus and 2O2 minus ions. This ionization of water occurs by the help of few drops of H2SO4. Okay, we give H2SO4 few drops. So this few drops of H2SO4 helps the ionization of water into its constituents ions. This is the H plus ions and this is the O minus ions. As we trigger the switch of the electrolytic cell, okay, what happens, this particular positive terminal of the battery attracts the negative ions. This particular positive terminal of the battery attracts the negative ions, and there are bubbles that rises up. There are bubbles of gas that are being evaluated, and it gets stored at the top of the vessel. So here also we get at the cathode, which is the negative terminal of the battery, the positive ions get attracted, and what happens, there is a gas liberated at the negative terminal of the battery. Now we have to understand what are the reactions that are going in the anode and what are the reactions that are going in the cathode. So now see, we know in the anode we get what? The negative ions. So we take the negative ions, 2O2 minus. Okay, we take the negative ions, 2O2 minus. 2O2 minus. This 2 minus is the charge. Okay, now this 2O2 minus, what happens, they releases 4 electrons. And hence becomes O2. This is the molecule of oxygen. It releases 4 electrons at the anode and turns into molecular oxygen. Okay, and that gets stored in the vessel of the water. Okay, so a gas is formed at the top of the anode, which is the oxygen. Now what happens at the cathode? What is the reaction going on? This 4H plus takes up the 4 electrons from the cathode and becomes 2H2, 2 molecules of hydrogen gas. So this also gets stored. As we see, the number of molecules that are obtained in oxygen is 1 and the number of molecules of hydrogen obtained is 2. So what will happen, the volume of hydrogen that will be observed will be having a ratio 2:1. So this is your hydrogen. So the volume of H is to oxygen will be 2 is to 1, because in this particular reaction of the anode and cathode we see two molecules of cathode are observed for the hydrogen gas and one molecule of oxygen is obtained in the anode. Clear? So we have to maintain this ratio, okay, 2 is to 1, where we will see the volume of hydrogen will be double that of the volume of water. So very clearly, let us understand it once again, okay. Electrolysis of water is the electrical dissociation of water into its constituents. When water is dissociated, it dissociates into ions H plus and O minus, and this ionization does not take place usually. It has to be given a few drops of dilute H2SO4, which enhances the ionization of the water molecules. When the water molecules are getting ionized by the help of dilute H2SO4 or sulfuric acid, we will see when there is a passage of electricity in this ionic state of H plus and O2 minus ions, the anode attracts the negative ions and the cathode attracts the positive ions. Okay, so at the anode where we have the O2 minus, it releases 2 electrons at the anode. Okay, and there is a gas that is evolved at the anode, which is the oxygen. Moreover, at the cathode, what happens? There is a the cathode attracts the H plus ions and takes 4 electrons from the cathode and forms 2 molecules of hydrogen. So in this particular electrolysis of water, we see that the electrical energy breaks down water into its constituent gases. Okay, so this setup is very important for you for your exam. You have to draw this setup, okay, at your exam. Please make sure you mention the volume of hydrogen is double the volume of oxygen that is absent, and you must know the reason, because we see as 2 molecules of water breaks down into 2 molecules of hydrogen gas and 1 molecule of oxygen gas. Hence, the volume of hydrogen is to oxygen that will be obtained is 2 is to 1. Clear? Thank you.